The meeting hall of the Galactic Council glittered with blue light as hundreds of alien delegates gathered beneath the towering crystal dome of Vorex Prime. It was supposed to be a day of celebration, but the air was tense, and every whisper carried unease. In the center of the chamber stood Elder Threx, the oldest and wisest being of his kind, his silver eyes reflecting the glow of the stars outside. He spoke slowly, his voice calm but filled with warning. "Do not provoke the humans," he said. "They are not like us. They do not forget, and they never surrender." His words echoed through the vast chamber, but the council members only exchanged amused glances. The representatives of the stronger empires, confident in their fleets and technologies, chuckled softly as if the elder's words were tales from an ancient myth. "Elder Threx," one of them said with arrogance, "humanity is still new to the stars. They can barely hold their small colonies. They pose no threat to the council." The elder lowered his gaze, realizing that wisdom was often ignored by those blinded by power. Beyond the chamber walls, however, humanity was changing. On Earth, Commander Elias Rho of the Earth Defense Alliance studied the strange silence spreading through human space. One by one, colonies that had flourished on distant worlds had gone dark. No signals, no distress calls, nothing. The council called it technical failure, but Elias knew better. Every lost signal had come from areas rich in minerals or energy, worlds the council had long desired for themselves. Reports whispered of alien ships seen in the distance, of strange shadows on the edge of human scanners, and of outposts vanishing overnight. The Elder A.S. old message, buried deep in the archives, returned to Elias like a ghostly echo. "Do not provoke the humans." Now, someone had done exactly that. As Earth's leaders argued about how to respond, Elias moved quietly, gathering evidence, connecting patterns no one wanted to see. The Galactic Council had launched what they called Operation Silence, a secret mission to limit humanity's growth. They feared humans were evolving too quickly, that their minds and machines were advancing faster than any species before them. But they never understood the human heart, the stubborn spark that refused to die even in darkness. When Elias presented his findings to the High Command, most dismissed him. "We must stay peaceful," they said. "If we accuse the Council without proof, they will turn against us." Elias looked out the window toward the stars and murmured, "They already have." Days turned into weeks, and the silence deepened. No trade ships arrived. No messages came from the colonies. It was as if humanity had been erased from the galactic map. But far from Earth, on a forgotten mining moon, a lone human beacon flickered to life. A broken transmission reached Earth, a voice, weak but clear. "They're coming for you next." That was all. In that moment, humanity changed. Fear turned into unity, and silence became strategy. Elias gathered the surviving captains, engineers, and scientists. He told them, "If the galaxy wants us gone, we'll make them remember why we exist." Under the oceans, inside mountains, and across orbiting stations, humanity began to prepare. They built not just weapons, but defenses no one had ever seen before. Machines that could bend gravity, control light, and hide entire cities behind shields of energy. Yet they did it quietly, just as their enemies had done. The Galactic Council thought humans were panicking, surrendering to despair, but in truth, humanity was awakening. Elder Threx watched from afar, his heart heavy. He had tried to warn them. He had told them that humans were not driven by conquest, but by survival. "They are not cruel," he had said once to his students, "but if you strike their home, you will see the storm behind their kindness." One night, under the golden glow of Vorex Prime's twin suns, he looked to the horizon and whispered, "It has begun." On Earth, Commander Elias Rho stood before a darkened screen showing the names of every lost colony. He touched the screen and whispered, "We asked for peace. and they answered with silence. Outside, thunder rolled across the skies, as if the world itself was waking from a long sleep. The stars above seemed brighter, closer, almost listening. Humanity, once scattered and fragile, was now united by a single thought. They ignored the warning. And as the first secret ships of the Earth Defense Alliance launched silently into the void, their engines glimmering like sparks in the night, Elias whispered the words that would soon echo across the galaxy. Now, humanity seeks no mercy. The universe would soon learn that the Elder had been right all along, and that those who mistake patience for weakness often face a power they can never understand. Weeks passed after the first human ships vanished into the silence of space, and the galaxy believed Earth had surrendered. Trade routes were quiet, human signals were gone, and the Council congratulated itself for restoring balance. Yet in the shadows of that false calm, humanity moved like a storm gathering behind dark clouds. Beneath the oceans, deep within the mountains, and hidden behind moons, Earth had become a silent forge of purpose. Commander Elias Rho stood in the control chamber of the Earth Defense Alliance, watching hundreds of new ships rise from their hangars. They were sleek, dark, and quiet, each one born from the pain of lost colonies. Scientists worked without rest, creating the Aegis network, a system of orbiting satellites capable of bending gravity and shielding entire fleets. The project was more than a defense. It was a promise that Earth would never be silenced again. Meanwhile, Elder Threx felt the change long before anyone else. From his chamber on Vorex Prime, he sensed the quiet pulse of human energy stretching across the void. "They are not preparing for war," he whispered to the stars. "They are preparing to be remembered." But no one in the Council believed him. They still saw humanity as a fading echo, too young and too proud to matter. When the first Council scout ship entered Earth's orbit, its captain reported nothing unusual until every system went dark. The ship floated helplessly, caught in a silent grip that held it still. The crew panicked, sending distress calls that never reached anyone. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, they were released, unharmed but shaken. They returned to the Council with eyes full of fear, speaking of invisible energy and ships that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. The Council dismissed their words as delusion, but the same thing happened again and again. Patrol fleets vanished, mining drones disappeared. The regions once labeled as human sectors became dead zones. No signals entered, and none came out. It was as if humanity had vanished from existence. But those who watched closely noticed something strange. Stars near Earth flickered unnaturally, as if shadows moved between them. The galaxy whispered of the silent frontier, a place where ships that entered never returned. Commander Elias listened to every intercepted Council message, calm and steady. "Let them wonder," he told his officers. "The longer they fear the unknown, the stronger we grow." The Aegis network expanded, linking human worlds in an invisible web of light and energy. Where colonies had once fallen, new stations now stood, hidden behind distortion fields. Humanity had learned not only to defend, but to disappear and reappear wherever they were least expected. Still, Elias knew the Council would not rest. Pride would force them to act. And he was right. The Council gathered its largest fleet in centuries, 300 ships strong, and sent them toward Earth, claiming it was a peace mission. Elder Threx begged them to stop. "Do not test their silence," he warned. "You do not understand what they have become." But his voice was drowned out by the clamor of generals and politicians who saw only their own reflection in power. When the fleet arrived near Earth's orbit, space itself seemed to twist. The Aegis network activated. Without firing a single shot, the entire fleet began to lose control. Engines stopped, shields flickered, communications failed. The ships drifted like leaves in a wind they couldn't feel. From the command room on Earth, Elias watched the entire event in silence. "No deaths," he ordered. just understanding. One by one, the alien ships were guided safely away from Earth, their systems reactivated just long enough to retreat. When they returned home, they carried no damage, only fear. Every transmission to the Council came with the same trembling message. They didn't attack us, they just stopped us. In that moment, the balance of the galaxy shifted. Elder Threx stood before the Council once more, his voice heavy with sorrow. "You see now," he said quietly, "humanity has not become your enemy. They have become your lesson." Across the stars, whispers of awe and fear spread like wildfire. The humans had not declared war, yet every empire now felt smaller. No one dared approach Earth again. Commander Elias, watching the stars from the observation deck, knew the silence was temporary. "They will come again," he said softly. "But this time, they will come asking for peace." As he turned away, the light of distant galaxies reflected in his eyes. Humanity had risen from the silence, and in that quiet strength they had shown the universe what true power meant. The Council had ignored the warning, and now they stood in the shadow of the very species they once tried to erase. The galaxy had gone still. After the Council's failed attempt to control Earth, no empire dared to challenge humanity again. Entire regions of space fell silent when human ships passed through. Once proud fleets rerouted their paths to avoid Earth's territory. The legend of the silent frontier spread among travelers and merchants, told in hushed voices like a ghost story whispered in the dark. Yet, while the rest of the galaxy trembled, Earth remained calm. Commander Elias Rho stood before the massive viewing window of the Earth Defense Alliance's command station, watching the planet below shimmer in the blue light of the Aegis network. Humanity had achieved what no species had ever done. They had earned peace through restraint. No wars, no invasions, no demands. Only silence that carried the weight of consequence. The Council, humiliated but desperate to restore control, called an emergency summit on Vorax Prime. The same hall where Elder Threx's warning had been ignored now glowed with pale light and uneasy faces. Every delegate could feel it. The shift in power. Humanity, once considered young and reckless, now stood as a force beyond comprehension. Elder Threx entered the chamber quietly, his steps slow, his heart heavy. He had lived long enough to see his words fulfilled, but there was no pride in his eyes, only sorrow. "You were warned," he said softly, looking at the gathered rulers. "They did not want to rule. They only wanted respect. But when you chose silence over peace, you taught them to answer in kind." The room remained still. No one dared to interrupt. On the hollow screen behind the elder, a message appeared, simple, calm, and unmistakably human. Commander Elias Rho appeared, standing before the stars, his uniform dark and expression unreadable. "To the Council," he began, his voice even, "humanity will not seek revenge. We will not invade, but we will not forget. You took our colonies, silenced our voices, and called it order. Now you will live with the silence you created." Every word carried quiet authority, not of anger but of absolute control. "We asked for peace," Elias continued. "You answered with fear. Now the galaxy understands what fear truly is, not destruction, but being unheard. Humanity does not seek war, only respect. Remember that, and we will remain your allies. Forget it, and the silence will return." The message ended. For a moment, no one in the Council moved. The elder broke the silence. "He is offering you a gift, peace wrapped in warning. Take it, and do not test it again." Outside, the stars gleamed brighter, as if the universe itself was listening. From that day, humanity was no longer seen as a newcomer to the stars, but as a silent guardian, a species that had suffered quietly, learned deeply, and risen without cruelty. Their ships began to appear on the edges of dying worlds, not as conquerors, but as builders, They help stabilize planets, repair stations, and share technologies. Yet, every being who saw a human ship knew the truth behind their calm. These were the same people who had once been underestimated and betrayed, and who now stood untouchable among the stars. Elder Threx spent his final days watching humanity's growth, proud but weary. "They ignored the warning," he whispered one night as he gazed at the constellations. "And now they remember the mercy they lost." He knew that no one would ever again mistake humanity's patience for weakness. On Earth, Commander Elias stood on the command deck, watching the sunrise break across the planet. The golden light reflected on his face, and he spoke softly as if to the stars themselves. "Let them learn. Let them see that mercy is strength." In that moment, the galaxy felt smaller, quieter, but safer. Humanity had proven that power did not always roar. It could whisper, and the entire universe would still listen. And so the legend spread across time and stars, that once the galaxy ignored the Elder's warning, and humanity, without war, without bloodshed, reminded them all why silence can be the loudest answer of all.